recording in.
Namaste.
Good evening, Narad.
Do send me the corrections, Vladimir, that I have to make in the recording.
Right. Yes, yes, Dasha is working on it, so she makes a list, and so we will.
Ah, very good.
There are a few
Very
things, only a few small things.
Very good. We come up with them frequently.
Yeah, that's all right. That's normal thing. Otherwise, it's so good. Yeah, have you seen your work on our this
No,
book?
no, I haven't seen it. No.
Oh, this is so pleasant to go through. This is such a great help. I'm recommending everybody to go through these, because it's much easier to understand. It's very difficult text to read through.
Yeah. Yes.
Excuse me, I just joined. Good morning, all. Can you repeat, if you don't mind, how to understand that this is my problem with Savitri? Did you mention a source where we can understand better Savitri? Or you were speaking about?
We were talking about
something else.
Yeah, the human cycle and the ideal of humanity.
Okay.
Narad read the whole text, and we created the audiobooks with text and listening and seeing. This would be also very good to do with Savitri, actually, which may help to go through Savitri. Yes.
Oh, but we have a lot of material that help to understand Savitri. I thought this is an extra source. That's why I'm asking the question. Thank you anyway. Thank you.
Yes, this is another view of Savitri. And we will continue as we have in the past. We're on page.
I don't remember. 1 second, I will check.
I think it's 124.
124. Okay. Thank you. And what line? Do you remember the line?
Yeah. I think you should go above, just scroll up.
It is from the top, 124. Do you see it?
Yes.
I don't know if we've done the Birds of Wonder as yet. Does anyone know the page?
Wait a minute, I will check for the last recording, and that would be easy.
Yeah, if somebody could put that each week in a video to me or an email to me, then I'll know exactly where to begin. I have so many going on now, it's difficult to keep track.
It's such a good help. Yes, you're always dealing with Savitri for you to dive into Savitri. Yes, it's like constantly holding you in its embrace. I'm thinking about myself. It's such a grace to be always with the text.
Yes. Well, maybe I can begin with an inspiration and a lyric cry, the very first line.
Yeah.
That will be good. It doesn't matter if we duplicate because these are very important things. This section is the glory and the fall of life. And it's Canto 3 of the book of the Traveler of the Worlds. So he begins, an inspiration and a lyric cry. The moments came with ecstasy on their wings. Beauty unimaginable moved heaven bare, absolved from boundaries in the vasts of dream. The cry of the birds of wonder called from the skies to the deathless people of the shores of light. Oh, there's so much to cover here, so let's go slowly. What is a lyric cry? Lyric here has the feeling of something very direct, almost of a form or a musical quality of a song. It's in the plural, it's always the words of a song, the lyrics. So here it is a musical cry, an inspiration, and a lyric cry. Now, what happens with that lyric cry? Well, it brings the moments with ecstasy on their wings. And we know that ecstasy is intense joy or delight, even a state of exalted emotion, so intense that one is carried beyond thought. And very often it's associated with mystic exaltation. Sri Aurobindo has a lot to say on it, but I believe we've covered his words before. And we can just read maybe the last passage on this in Life Divine. The supermind, reconciling and fusing all differences as well as all contradictions, brings out this unity. A wide calm and a deep delight of all existence are among its first steps of self-realization. But this calm and this delight rise together as one state into an increasing intensity and culminate in the eternal ecstasy, the bliss that is the infinite. We carry on. Beauty unimaginable, moved heaven bare. Oh, absolved from boundaries in the vasts of dream. The cry of the birds of wonder called from the skies to the deathless people of the shores of light. Amal tells us that the bird of wonder is the unimaginably beautiful carrier of the higher consciousness. Now, Madhav says that Ashwapati is now in the mid-world. He is neither in the nether realms of struggle and obscurity, nor in the brighter worlds above of power and rapture. He is in realms of beauty that point to still happier altitudes. The birds of wonder are the marvelous beings of that region, the angels who call upon the higher worlds of light to manifest in their world. Now, Nolini gives us a very different understanding, but similar. He says, usually the first spiritual experience comes as wonder. How true I have found that to be. The birds symbolize the forces at play in this level of wonder, beings in that consciousness of wonder. And Jumor lastly gives a very beautiful explanation also. There are moments when something calls to us, those magical inspirations. The birds move freely through the wind. They are the symbols of the freedom of movement, and they are singers who link the worlds together in their song. Now, what about these worlds, these birds of wonder calling from the skies? Who are they calling to? Well, Sri Aurobindo tells us to the deathless people of the shores of light. Temi says this is the higher life plane, these shores of light. And Jumor tells us that it's all the planes of the different gods, the forces. And Alok tells us that it's the deathless people on the shores of light who are the gods who live on the borders of eternity near the empire of the supramental sun. So we continue. Creation leaped straight from the hands of God. Marvel and rapture wandered in the ways. Rapture, of course, is ecstasy here, a very high emotion. And marvel, of course, is something that causes feelings of wonder or astonishment or admiration. And so Sri Aurobindo tells us that in this plane, only to be was a supreme delight. Life was a happy laughter of the soul, and joy was king with love for minister. And of course, Sri Aurobindo tells us so much about love, that love is an intense self-expression of the soul of Ananda. He says also it's the crown of all being and its way of fulfillment, that by which it rises to all intensity and all fullness and the ecstasy of utter self-finding. It is the crown of knowledge. It is the delight of union. Perfect knowledge indeed leads to perfect love. Integral knowledge to a rounded and multitudinous richness of love. And of course, we had Mother's saying, and I think we did this actually last week, but that's all right. Mother says, consciousness is indeed the creatrix of the universe, but love is its savior. The Spirit's luminousness was embodied there, given shape to a bodily form, exhibited in outward reality. Life's contraries were lovers or natural friends, and her extremes, keen edges of harmony. Indulgence through the tender purity came and nursed the God on her maternal breast. Well, this indulgence is, of course, a benign leniency, tolerance, and nursed the God on her maternal breast. There none was weak, so falsehood could not live. Ignorance was a thin shade protecting light. What a line. Ignorance was a thin shade protecting light. Imagination, the free will of truth. Pleasure, a candidate for heaven's fire. The intellect was beauty's worshiper. Strength was the slave of calm spiritual law. Power laid its head upon the breasts of bliss. Well, power There's a very different word here. And right now, I'm working on 2 gardens, just about ready for completion. The Garden of Life and the Garden of Power. For the Garden of Life, Mother has named the hibiscus Power of Consciousness to represent life. But in the Garden of Power, she has recommended that we use the flower, the hibiscus, aesthetic power. So it is a very different kind of power, this aesthetic power. And it has, it's been quite a work to combine plants to harmonize with this aesthetic power. So let's look at a couple of definitions from Sri Aurobindo. First, we see that beauty is the special divine manifestation in the physical, as truth is in the mind, love in the heart, power in the vital. And actually, that's from the future poetry. And there's another line or two from the future poetry, which I would like to share with you, because future poetry is a very special book. I'm not able to read all of it yet, but I read it as often as possible. Beauty is the way in which the physical expresses the divine. But the principle and law of beauty is something inward and spiritual, and expresses itself through the form. And again, in the future poetry, he says, beauty is ananda taking form, but the form need not be a physical shape. One speaks of a beautiful thought, a beautiful act, a beautiful soul. What we speak of as beauty is ananda in manifestation. Beyond manifestation, beauty loses itself in ananda. Or you may say beauty and ananda become indistinguishably one. And lastly, in the human cycle from Sri Aurobindo, to find highest beauty is to find God, to reveal, to embody, to create, as we say. Highest beauty is to bring out of our souls the living image and power of God. And I close here with the mother in her talks on education. In the physical world, of all things, it is beauty that expresses best the divine. The physical world is the world of form, and the perfection of form is beauty. Beauty interprets, expresses, manifests the eternal. Its role is to put all manifested nature in contact with the eternal through the perfection of form, through harmony and a sense of the ideal, which uplifts and leads us towards something higher. Now we see that strength was the slave of calm spiritual law. Sri Aurobindo mother often use the word servant and slave, which is the ideal for our humanity to become. And here he calls it a slave, but it's the strength that is the slave of calm spiritual law. And power laid its head upon the breasts of bliss. There is a flower that Aurobindo Basu always kept as his front page picture or cover picture of Gavesana, his journal. and its power's aspiration to become a work for the divine. And that is the use of power. It is strength and force, Shakti, which enables one to face all that can happen and to stand and overcome, also to carry out what the divine will proposes. It can include many things. Of course, power over men, events, circumstances, means, etc. But all this not of the mental or vital kind, but by an action through unity of consciousness with the divine and with all things and beings. It is not an individual strength depending on certain personal capacities, but the divine power using the individual as an instrument. So, we'll continue. We have the line, there were summit glories, inconceivable, autonomies of wisdom's still self-rule, and high dependencies of her virgin son, illumined theocracies of the seeing soul, throned in the power of the transcendence way. Well, we have so many interesting words here. Summit glories, this zenith, this highest point of glory, that's inconceivable to us right now. And autonomies, self-government, of wisdom's still self-rule. And then we have high dependencies of her virgin son. Dependencies are basically subject territories that are not an integral part of the ruling country. But here they're high dependencies of her virgin son. And illumined theocracies of the seeing soul. A theocracy is a government in which God or a deity is held to be the civil ruler, throned in the power of the transcendence ray. Well, throned is here a verb, and it simply means to act as a ruler, throned, ruled, exalted, entitled in the power of the transcendence ray. And Sri Aurobindo tells us a few things about the transcendent, and there is so much that I would like to look through the synthesis of yoga and perhaps a little in the life divine. I'll continue for a few minutes yet. A vision of grandeurs, a dream of magnitudes. In sun-bright kingdoms, moved with regal gait. Assemblies, crowded senates of the gods, life's puissances reigned on seats of marble will, high dominations and autocracies, and laureled strengths and armed imperative mights. No doubt these are challenging lines at times, but we look through them very carefully. We see a vision of grandeurs. That's a vision of nobility or greatness of character. A dream of magnitudes, this greatness of size or importance or consequence. In sun-bright kingdoms, they moved, you see, with regal gait. Gait is a regal bearing. It's usually described as a manner of walking. And we have seen regal bearing and regal gait in many great people. Assemblies. Assemblies are, of course, a crowd of people gathered together, a group of people, usually for some particular purpose. Crowded senates of the gods. Senates, again, are assemblies or councils of citizens, having the highest deliberative and legislative functions in a government. Life's puissances reigned on seats of marble will. Puissance is power, might. Marble will here, I'm thinking it's more like in something as inflexible as marble, resembling marble in its texture, in its smoothness, and its whiteness. High dominions and autocracies. Dominions, of course, are authority, rule, control. Autocracies, unlimited authority, power, or influence. So we have high dominations. I'm sorry, I said dominions. High dominations, which are authority or rule, and autocracies, unlimited power, influence, absolute government, and laureled strengths and armed imperative mights. Laureled strengths symbolize victory. We remember in ancient Greece, the laurels being put over the winners of competitions. Imperative mights, imperative mights. Imperative here is an adjective, absolutely necessary or required, unavoidable, commanding. All objects there were great and beautiful. All beings wore a stamp of power. Now, this was a fairly long area, and I would ask someone, a good reader, to read for us the lines from the beginning.
Okay, can I read?
Yes, certainly.
Okay. An inspiration and a lyric cry. The moments came with ecstasy on their wings. Beauty unimaginable moved heaven bare, absolved from boundaries in the vasts of dream. The cry of the birds of wonder called from the skies to the deathless people of the shores of light. Creation leaped straight from the hands of God. Marvel and rapture wandered in the ways. Only to be was a supreme delight. Life was a happy laughter of the soul, and joy was king with love for minister. The spirit's luminousness was bodied there. Life's contraries were lovers or natural friends, and her extremes keen edges of harmony. Indulgence with a tender purity came and nursed the god on her maternal breast. There none was weak, so falsehood could not live. Ignorance was a sin shade protecting light, imagination the free will of truth. Pleasure a candidate for heaven's fire. The intellect was beauty's worshipper. Strength was the slave of calm spiritual law. Power laid its head upon the breasts of bliss. Yes.
There were summit glories.
Yes. There were summit glories, inconceivable autonomies of wisdom, still self-rule, and high dependencies of her virgin son, illumined theocracies of the seeing soul, throned in the power of the transcendence ray. A vision of grandeurs, a dream of magnitudes, in sun-bright kingdoms moved with regal gait, assemblies, crowded senates of the gods, life's puissances reigned on seats of marble will, high dominations and autocracies, and laureled strengths and armed imperative mights. All objects there were great and beautiful, all beings wore a royal stamp of power.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You read very beautifully.
Thank you.
I would only suggest perhaps a little bit slower next time.
Yes.
It was a little bit fast, and
Okay.
our minds have to be so fast to catch everything.
Yes.
So just a little bit slower would be perfect. But
Okay.
very, very good reading. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And namaste to all of you.
Namaste.
And
Namaste.
see you next week. Huh? Namaste.
Vladimir, are you still there?
Namaste.
Yes.
Do we have the Sunday Sangha today?
Yes.
I'm not able to log in into the Zoom.
It is actually Sunday Sangha is changed to the dream, the sleeping course. If you
Oh, I
didn't-
see. Okay, okay.
If you didn't sign for it, then most probably you have to sign for it, I think.
Okay, I will do that. Sure.
Okay.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.